All right, I just noticed that I had my settings on the audio were too low, so I'm sorry that all of a sudden you got a blast of sound, but I raised the sound. Okay, in the future it'll be better. I'm supposed to check that before I start the class, and I didn't. Okay. This is a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe on Zion Tavis Tufshin Nun Base. It could be that I have to look into this. It could be that this is already 1992. 1992. Okay, we've spoken many times. When is New Year's going to be over here? One second, let me just have a look over here. Let me have a look. Give me 1 minute. Anyway, I think it could have been 92. Yeah, okay. Tomorrow, I guess, is going to be New Year's, right? Yeah. Okay, now this is talking about Moshiach, and especially what we have to do to bring Moshiach. And just to remind everyone that Moshiach is the most important topic in the world, and that is the main goal and purpose and topic in Judaism, at least it should be, is Moshiach. Moshiach is going to be a person that basically is going to bring all the Jews to do the Torah and to do all the commandments. And the whole world will worship only the Creator, only the Creator. The world will worship only the Creator that took the Jews out of Egypt and gave them his Torah. That's the first of the 10 commandments. They won't worship any people. They won't worship any spirits. They won't worship any sons of God or daughters of God or cousins or levels of realization. And it'll all be according to the Torah, exactly according to what the Torah says. The rabbis, how the rabbis explain the Torah, that's the idea of Mashiach. Mashiach will bring everybody back to, well, how do you want to call it? As it is called disparagingly in the world, rabbinical Judaism, which that's ridiculous because that's the only Judaism that there is. Right? Without the rabbinical Judaism, then, I mean, there can't be such a thing as non-rabbinical Judaism, because if you don't trust the rabbis of the Talmud, so you become the rabbi. But you become the rabbi. You decide what is Shabbos. You decide that, if you want to, you can do it, but it's not serious and it's not correct. So that's Mashiach. Mashiach is going to bring the whole world back to their senses, so that people will do what it says in the Torah. The Torah. And for non-Jews, it's 7 Noahide commandments, which is basically the same. It all comes from the Torah. It comes from the Torah, the 7 Noahide commandments. Okay. We've spoken many times that everything that are spoken about in the the word Torah is the language of hora'ah, teaching. This indicates to us Horos nitzchios, eternal teachings, l'kol echad ve'echad, to each and every Jew. I mean, you have to remember, God himself gave the Torah. Now, God creates time. God doesn't create time within time, like as he goes along, right? Because there's no go along. Time itself is just a creation. That there's past, present, and future, that's because God decided. We can't imagine what is a world without past, present, and future. I mean, really, there is no such thing as a world without past, present, and future. We can't imagine how there cannot be a world. No existence whatsoever. But the fact is that God is creating all existence. And for some reason or other, God wants this physical world to be here, and it's very important to God, the world. It's not just God spit or something like that, and there came a world, right? And the main thing is we go to heaven. No, God, the world is very important to God. And when God took the Jews out of Egypt and he gave them the Torah, so he explained to all of them, and they're supposed to go into explain it to the whole world, because God ordered that the Torah should be written in 70 languages on these stones. So the Torah was really for everybody. Why? He's creating the world. What's he doing? What's he creating time for? But nevertheless, the Torah is always important. Why is it always important? Through time. Because there's really no such thing as time. Time, of course there is such a thing, and God creates it, there is such a thing. But it's not real in the sense that God is real. So there's something more real than time. Oh, there's something more real than time. So obviously when God gave the Torah, it's relevant to all time. because even though it did happen 3,300 years ago, but that's just when God revealed this infinite thing, opened up the window, and he showed this infinite, then closed it, the window. So we see that the Torah is relevant. Okay, now what's the whole thing of the Torah? The Torah is telling us to do things. And God cares about what we do. What we do is tremendously, tremendously important to God. So it's always the Torah, every word of the Torah has a teaching for every place and for every situation. Hora klalis, there are general teachings, and also horos kailu, specific teachings which are according to the Matzavim Hamiyuchadim, special times at different times that on that particular time and place, etc. So in other words, wherever you are, God knew you were going to be there, and God knows that you're there, and he cares about what you're doing. And there's a teaching in the Torah to tell you how to relate to and react to and be proactive, whatever change, wherever you are. Okay, and similarly, it is also regarding to the Torah, the Torah portion of the week. The Ima with it, so you have to live with the Torah portion of the week. This week's Torah portion of the week is Vayigash of Yehuda. That Yehuda came, Shemimeno, is a Vayigash, approached to him, to Yosef, Yehuda. Yehuda approached Yosef. Shemimeno, from it, Yeshna, there's a teaching, an eternal teaching, which clarifies and it gives us an understanding of what type of service and way a Jew should act, also to right now. In the last seconds of exile. The smichos mamish to we are immediately, how do you say, connected to the Geula Mitzvah, the total, real redemption, like it says many times, the Prad Bacharona. So I think we talked a lot about this. What's the idea of getting out of exile? There's a lot of examples, and it's very hard for us to understand what it means to be out of exile because we're in it, right? Like I gave you the example about, the parents that are taking their blind child, God forbid, parents have a child born blind, and they take them around to all sorts of different treatments and different shots and different things, so that he'll be able to see. But the boy has no idea what they're doing. He never saw before. What do they want? What do they want from me? What do they want from me? I'm doing everything I can. I don't understand why are they getting stuck and tested and this and that. He doesn't understand what it means to see. He has no idea what it is. But he has a sense that maybe there is such a thing because he sees people talking about colors and talking about that. The same thing as here that we see the Rebbe is talking about all these things, the revelations and the future redemption that God is going to be revealed. We hear him talking about it, but we don't exactly understand what it is. And the Rebbe is trying to tell us, I'm going to tell you some tricks that you can do, and that you can start opening up your eyes. You can see what's going on. You can see what's reality, what real reality is. What real reality is. Ubashkafa Rishona, at the first glance, Mudgesha, the Sheikhos, is the connection of this Torah portion by Yigash of Yehuda with the future redemption, which is in the Haftorah. The Haftorah of the Shabbat, Shehi Minyani Parsha, that in this, what is the Haftorah of this week's Parsha? Here it is, look, see. 3 is in Yechezkel. It's a prophecy of Ezekiel, the prophet. And God tells over there Ezekiel that he should, maybe we'll do it the Haftorah. They should take 2 pieces of wood and put them together, and one is Yosef and one is Yehuda, and that in the future they're going to be united. What's going on? About 100 years into about 70 years, something like that. As soon as King Solomon died, so the first temple, King Solomon built the first temple, right? But as soon as King Solomon died, so his son was not such a good king, and the kingdom divided. So the upper part of the kingdom, that was Yosef, Ephraim, and the bottom of the kingdom, that was Yehuda. The 10 tribes, that was Yosef, that was called Ephraim, was called Yosef. and the bottom two tribes, which was Yehuda and Benjamin, that was the tribe of Yehuda. That was Yehuda. The top was called Israel, and the bottom was called Yehuda. And they were separated, and they remained that way. They remained that way until about what is it, 100 something years before the temple was destroyed. 150 years before the temple was destroyed. That's how they remember. About 150 years before the temple was destroyed, there came a king, Shalmaneser, whatever, and he took away these 10 tribes into exile, and they're still there. Nobody knows where they are. Moshiach is going to bring them back where they are. But still, the country was still not unified because the upper part where the 10 tribes were was conquered by the Assyrians or whatever nation they were. So that's it. They weren't really unified. And Mashiach comes, he's going to unify them again. He's going to find the 10 tribes. He's going to unify them again. How in the world he's going to do such thing like that? I have absolutely no idea. I mean, these tribes, 10 tribes, they've been in exile for 2,700 years, something like that, 2,500 years. Long time they've been in exile. So, how they've kept their identity, who knows what's going on? I don't know. Anyway, there's always through time, there's these people who've tried to find the 10 tribes. I even know somebody who tried to find the 10 tribes. It's a very interesting topic, the 10 tribes. No one's really sure what's going on. Once in a while, there pops up somebody says, I know. There was a fellow called Eldad Adani, and he traveled around the world, and he came back and he said that there was the 10 tribes. He found the 10 tribes. And they say that Rashi believed him. Believe him. There's supposed to be someplace on the other side of this river, Sampatyan, and they still have their identity, and I don't know. And there's always popping up people, from India and from China and from this and say, we are the real Jews. One time they thought all the English were the real Jews. Even to this day, the king of England gets circumcised. The whole royal family, I guess, the males, of course, they all get circumcised. Some people say that they're the real Jews. They're the Jews. I don't know. In any case, somehow that's going to come together. That's the Haftorah. The Haftorah is talking about, it says, one second, here it is. It's talking about the unity of the kingship of King David and the kingship of Yosef in the future. In the future. It says, Kach lecha eitz, take one tree, one piece of wood, a stick, and write on it Yehuda, and another one write on it Yosef. This is what God tells Ezekiel, the prophet. The Koravotam, put them together, El Echad, to be one, the Eitz Echad, that will be one, etc. Koamar Hashem. This is what God is saying. Hine ani lokech et Bnei Yisrael. I am taking the people of Bnei Yisrael, that's the 10 tribes. Mibena, going from the nations. Asher, but that means also all the Jews nowadays that are scattered around. Asher holchu sham, that they went there. V'kibatzti otam misaviv, and I will gather them from around. V'asiti otam, and I will make them for one nation. Umelech echad yeh lekulam, and one king will be for all of them. The David Avdi, and King David, my servant, nasi lehem nolam, will be the king for them forever. The Yada Goyim ki ani Hashem, and the nations will know that I am God. So Mashiach is going to gather all the Jews from all around the world, and he's going to bring them all to the land of Israel. And he's going to build the third temple. He's going to build the third temple first, and then he's going to gather all the Jews to the land of Israel, gather them all together, and there'll be one king, that'll be King David. But in addition to this, which, by the way, that's the proof that this other person that they say is the Messiah, which God forbid he's the opposite, that he's the opposite of Messiah, because he caused the Jews to be spread all over the world, and Mashiach is supposed to gather them. Okay, but in addition to the fact that the Haftorah is talking about only the relevance to the Geula, it doesn't tell us what to do. What are we supposed to do? God said, I'm going to gather all the Jews together. Good, that's wonderful he's going to do, but what are we supposed to do? And we'll just wait for God to do it? No. The essence of the Torah is telling us to do something. What are we supposed to do? Says the Rebbe, this week's Torah portion tells us what to do. Hadrusha Gam, the Drusha Gam has been, we also have to have an explanation, the connection of the Haftorah, which is, we just finished saying, God says to Ezekiel, and one day I'm going to unify Yosef and Yehuda, to this Torah week's portion. This Torah week's portion seems to be exactly the opposite of the Haftorah. Why? This week's Torah portion is Yehuda is below, and Yosef is the king. Vayigash alav Yehuda. This is Lichora exactly the opposite of what it says that in the future King David, he's going to be the leader in the Haftorah. This week's Torah portion where Yehuda comes to Yosef, in general, this is stressing that how Yosef, he's the king, he's the Balabayas, Umishta Lamelech, he's the second to the king of the land of Israel, of Egypt, and Yehuda is nobody. Yehuda, he depends totally on Yosef. Yosef is the leader, and Yehuda is groveling. He's nothing. Yehuda has to come to Yosef. Yigash Love, that's the name of the Torah portion, to show us how low Yehuda is. He has to request from Yosef, please release Benjamin. And he says, Bi Adoni, please, my master, Dabar, now let me speak to you. You are like Paro, you are the king. You are important like the king is. He says that Paro, he put them in Paro, Natonoto, I'll call it Israel. Paro made Yosef the de facto ruler over the whole country. It says, Paro said to Yosef, without you, no one's going to lift up his hand or his foot. It says, Rashi explains, even to get on a horse. How many people lived in Egypt back then? Let's say there lived 10 million people, 100 million people. No one could do anything without Yosef. It's okay. Yosef had men all over the place. Anybody who wanted to do anything, they had to get permission from Yosef and Yosef's men. Can I hang up my laundry now? Yes. Can I put on my shoe now? I'm sorry, I'm not the expert in shoes. You have to, right? I'm not the minister. Ask him, shoes? Yeah, you can put on your shoe. Okay. Whatever, anything that everybody did had to have the okay of Yosef. Yosef was the king. And especially that Paro, it says that Paro, according to one opinion, he ruled the whole world. Moshe Bekipa. And Yehuda, so Yosef was the king of kings. He ruled over everything. And Yehuda, in our Torah portion, was the nothing of nothings. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. Not only that, Yosef should have hated him. He didn't know it was Yosef at the time. But the fact is, he didn't have anything to eat. He and his brothers were totally abject garnished. They were nothing, right? They were one of, just 10 little specks in the population of the world. Absolutely nothing. So that's this Torah portion. Yosef is the king, he's everything, and Yehuda is a nothing, which is not the case in the future, like it says in the that's the Torah portion. In the Haftorah, it says that Yehuda is going to be the highest. Yehuda is going to be the king. Moshiach is going to come from Yehuda. There's going to be one king for everybody. My servant, King David, he comes from Yehuda. He's going to be the king over them. And David, Avdi, Nasi Lam Nolam. And David, my servant, he'll be the ruler forever. What's going on? The Haftorah seems to be the opposite of this week's Torah portion. So what's the lesson? What's the lesson from this week's Torah portion where Yehuda is a nobody, that somehow is going to bring to the Moshiach, that Moshiach is going to be everybody. He's going to be what? We can understand this by first of all, Beer explaining the connection between the beginning of our Torah portion with the end. I think it was explained many times. She'alpi klal, according to the general principle. No, it's sofim betchilasam betchilasam besofim. The end is found in the beginning, and the beginning is the end. We just learned that now, with the idea of the Mishkan and the tabernacle. Yeshno sheichos miyucheres bein atchala v'sof parsha. There's something very special connection between the beginning of this week's Torah portion and the end of this week's Torah portion. What is it? We'll see. Also, we have to explain. In the end of this week's Torah portion, Katuv, Vayeshev Yisrael be'eretz Mitzrayim be'eretz Goshen v'yachazu bo v'yifru v'yirbu moed. Okay, let's just talk 1 second. What happens in this week's Torah portion? This week's Torah portion begins up with Yehuda supplicating, begging for his life, pleading, crying, Yosef, please, I beg of you, let my brother Benjamin go. Let him go. He has all, you have all the power. I'm a nobody. I'm just begging for you. Excuse me. That's the beginning of this week's Torah portion. Then right after the beginning, what happens? Yosef suddenly bursts out crying, and he said, it's me, I am Yosef. And his brothers go berserk. Wow, this is, I can't believe it, this is it. And he says, no, he's, and Yosef said, is my father still alive? And it is, and tell him to come down. Going to come down to Egypt. I'll make it good for him. Now he's sitting in, where is it? In Israel, everybody's starving. No one has what to eat. He's going to come down here. He's going to have all of the good in the world. No starving whatsoever. In fact, is that Yaakov comes down. As soon as he comes down, the famine stops. It says the famine stops. Okay. So it says, the beginning of this week's Torah portion, Yehuda, he's the nobody. At the end of this week's Torah portion, it says, Vayeshev Yisrael be'eretz Yisraim, that Yisrael means Yaakov. He lived in the land of Goshen, also the Jewish people. And the Yifru v'yirbu moed, and they were very, very fruitful. Right? And just what is it, 200 years, they're going to have millions of. This shows on the Tokib Shel Yaakov Avana. This shows the power of Yaakov and his sons, even Yosef, even though when they were in Egypt, Shetachat Shlitas Paro, they were under the rulership of Paro, the king of Egypt. Paro said, Tov Kol Ha'oretz Mitzrayim Lochem Hu. The best of the land of Israel belongs to you. If it wasn't for Yosef, there would be famine. Everybody in Egypt would have died. So Paro said, I'm still the king, but I am grateful to you. I'm ingratiated to you. Everything I have is yours. Therefore, you can take the best, whatever you want. And they said they can live in the best place of the land in Egypt, the most fruitful and fertile place in Egypt you can live. In such a way, said that the Jewish people were very, very successful. The Ummah says, on the other hand, the beginning of this week's Torah portion is talking about exactly the opposite. Is Magish is talking about Yehuda, that Yehuda and his brothers, they are in the worst situation a human being can possibly be. That they are under Yosef in 1 second can say, off with their heads, that's it. Or he could just make a motion, that's it, and they're gone. Doesn't even have to say anything. And they're completely nothing. In the beginning of this week's Torah portion, Yehuda and his brothers are nothing. They're like little specks on the table. Nothing. You can just get rid of them. And in the end, it says that they're living in the best place. This is before Yosef let his brothers know who he was. And so this week's Torah portion, also we see the same opposites in the Torah portion as there are in the name of the Torah portion and the Haftorah. The name of the Torah portion and the beginning of the Torah portion shows how low and helpless Yehuda and his brothers are. And the end of this Torah portion, and especially the Haftorah, shows how Yehuda and his brothers were elevated to the highest possible place. The Haftorah talks about even higher, that they're going to be the kings of the whole world. Why all these opposites? What's going on? What can we learn from this? What can we learn from this whole thing? Yesh Lomar, we can say the explanation is like this. Even though B'Hashkafa Rishona, that at first glance, it seems that Yehuda is coming close to Yosef. This shows how powerful Yosef is. Yosef is the leader of all of Egypt. The Eich Yehuda, and how Yehuda is so helpless and he depends totally on Yosef. But when you think about it a little bit, you realize that no, 1 second, there's something going on over here. We see that Yehuda, suddenly he had this amazing courage and You want to call it chutzpah, brightkeit, wideness. Yotzi min haklal. Yosef was, he said, he ruled over the whole world. And no one in Egypt could even lift up their hand without Yosef. Ubafran, especially Paro was, he said, ruled over the whole world. And Yosef was the same thing as Paro. So not only Egypt, but also the whole world. Like Yehuda said, you are like Paro. And nevertheless, and Yehuda was nobody. It was helpless. Yosef had a standing army of how many people? Doesn't make any difference. A standing army of 1,000 people, 10,000, 100,000 people. Yehuda had no standing army whatsoever. Yosef could have wiped them out in a second. And nevertheless, we see that Yehuda, without knowing that he didn't know this was Yosef's brother, he was not affected by this at all. He was not afraid at all. What's the word? He was not discouraged at all. And he acted with a wideness. He didn't even ask permission from Yosef. Can I come close? Can I approach the throne? No. It said Vayigash, he just approached the throne. Agasha shel Tokef. He came, it says it's talking about Kashot. Rashi explains that Yehuda spoke to him in hard language. Shalochin, therefore, you hear, Al Yicharapcha. Therefore, he said, please don't get angry at me. Why? Because Yosef, and the way he approached Yosef, it was enough to make Yosef angry. It was a chutzpah thing that he did. Even though he put himself in the tremendous, he could have killed him in an instant. Nevertheless, Yehuda paid absolutely no attention to any of the things that might discourage him. He knew that Yosef could, and not only that he came with chutzpah to Yosef, Yosef could have said, what are you doing? Off with his head. So it comes out that the Yikash love Yehuda, that Yehuda came close to Yosef, that this somehow or other shows a human quality that was in Yehuda that was greater than that of Yosef. This is the power of Yehuda. According to this, now it's understood the connection between the Yigash of Yehuda to the power of the Jewish people in the land of Israel in the end of the Torah portion. It says that Israel, the Jewish people, they lived in the Eretz Yisrael in the best places that there could be in Egypt. And also the connection between the power, the bravery, the courage, and the approaching of Yehuda in the of the elevation of Yehuda in the Torah portion, in the Haftorah, where it says that from Yehuda is going to come the Moshiach. Moshiach is going to be the leader of everybody. And so what do we see? That sometimes your attitude can put you higher than even kings. Yesh Lomo, we can say that the Tokef, Vayigash alav Yehuda, that Yehuda, he approached Yosef without permission, and he approached him very brazenly and powerfully. This gave the power that afterwards Yaakov and his sons could go down to Egypt and in such a way that not only they weren't under the rulership of Egypt, but even more, it says that they got the best place of Egypt and they were very fruitful and multiplied. And even more, that this was a preparation which will bring to the Haftorah, what it says in the Haftorah, that King David, my servant, will be a leader over the Moshiach forever. So Moshiach depends on our lack of fear, on our chutzpah, you want to call it, and our assertiveness, bravery, courage, not to consider, even put into our mind anything that might discourage us, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow.